What's up, guys? Today we are doing another set of the Big Lee's study material. Lee, hope you know, I'm going to sleep during this AP test. 29 minutes, 12 minutes, 7 minutes. How long is the live?
We're celebrating our 100th.
I hate doing this at home, Lee. I really do. I really do. Bro!
Every day, people juggle so many different tools just to
1 hour! So we have an hour and a half. Oh, that's not that long, actually. It's half of what we did for econ. Make separate videos for each? Really? No, Mr. Lee, why would you do that? Oh my gosh, my hair's a mess. How, Mr. Lee. Let's start with the longest one. That is an old man.
I am so excited. My name's Clifford.
He looks. This is not the man you show. Also, you can see very clearly. Jacob Clifford, if you're watching this, I don't think you're an old man. I just think that you look experienced. I mean, you look like an experienced man. Like Jacob Clifford, age, famous birthdays. He's 49 years old. 1977. That's the year my mom was born. Jacob Clifford, you are a sensation. I'm still sleeping through this test.
I want to first welcome you. Thank you for trusting me to help you learn this stuff.
Yeah, of
if
course.
you took the micro exam, you know apparently we're so just super. Don't freak. I see your comment. Do me a bit out that tip's really just one tip. I'll talk about my. I thought it would be a perfect and it was. Novice competition. We'll see.
Okay, can we start?
By unit.
This is economics. The ultimate review packet. Pretty sure you have to buy that. That is economics. No, Mr. Clifford, Mr. Clifford, no. No. Jacob Clifford, I do not want AP Business. I want AP Macro. ERP. I'm 3 minutes in. I haven't started something. You see? $40. That's supply and demand right here. I can learn all I need from economics from this.
So hang out as long as you want. I am here for you. This channel, I hope you've enjoyed. You learned most important exam tip. I don't have the full gift running here. Don't go crazy. Go slow. You learn this stuff. You know the key relationships. You know the key concepts. Don't freak out. If you come across something you absolutely don't know, skip it. It's not a big idea. The reason why is the goal of the exam. You got to think like an economist. The goal of the exam is not to get 100%. If the goal is 100%, then you focus on the hardest concepts because those things you're most likely to lose. The trick is really get the concepts that you know. If you get the right answers on the easier questions, you can do well on this test. In fact, this is the breakdown for a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now, it's never exactly these numbers. This is from a few years ago. But it's somewhere around here. If you get a little over 57% you got yourself a 3. Okay, these are slightly higher than the macro or the micro ones, but basically this is what you need. You'll be fine. You can miss 10 questions on the multiple choice section. Just miss them, leave them blank, and still be fine. As long as you're missing the hard ones that are harder to take more time. The easy ones you got to get right. So that's what I want to talk about today. Some of the things you're going to see on this actual test, but just keep in mind, take a breath. You know this stuff. You've worked on it. Have some confidence. There's 4 things. If you've seen my exam slayer or any of my videos that talk about this, there's 4 types of questions you see. Definition questions, you're going to see relationships questions, you're going to see graphing questions, and you're also going to see calculation questions. Let's talk about the 10 definitions you're likely to see. When I say definitions, I mean literally just a question. They'll say, what is declination? Or what is crowding out? Here are the 10 definitions that you will most likely see. This video is not about teaching you, so I'm not here to go, okay, let's talk about each one. Take a picture of it, check mark it, write it down in your notes. I can go back and look at the glossary money. I don't know what that is. Some are more important than others. The most important one is really investment. Investment is used for monetary policy. Remember, investment is never stocks and bonds in your retirement account. It's always taking out loans to produce more stuff. So lower interest rates will increase investment because firms can borrow, produce more stuff, and go from there. So that's a huge one, particularly for monetary policy. The other ones you might see is a question about crowding out. You're going to see a question on unemployment, frictional, structural, cyclical. Those are all the easy ones. Human capital payments. Again, if you don't know these things, go look them up. But really, those are the key definitions. I'm going to look right now in the comments if there's one that you just absolutely need me to go over, and I will do it. But it doesn't look like these are super hard concepts at all. They're just definitions. 1 year they had infrastructure was one of the questions. You just make sure you know what infrastructure is, which is like this is like bridges and railroads and stuff the government puts in. Again, some people are like totally spamming. Don't just tell me crowding out. Actually, explain what crowding out is. It's huge. I think it's on the few responses here. I'll tell you that right now. Crowding out is the idea when the government deficit spends. That means it raises interest rates, and that makes it harder for private businesses to invest. And so that's the idea of crowding out. So the government is crowding out private investments. Okay? All right. Let's talk about.
What?
Say it with me. Say it out loud. Make it feel good. Relationships. Oh, relationships. Relationships. This class is about relationships. How does this affect that? This is a perfect question. A negative aggregate supply shock or negative aggregate supply shock will result in which of the following in the short run? So you have to know what a supply shock is, right? So this is, we ran out of key resources. There's less oil. There's less electricity. So you need to know a definition, but you also need to know how that affects things. So this class has so much cause and effect. Cause and effect.
Oh wait, unemployment rate. No.
Increase. I have a hard time saying this. An increase in both price level and unemployment. So if that's when you really kind of see this as a graph in your brain, you should see this as okay, a decrease in the aggregate supply because we can't produce as much stuff. It means price level is going to go up and quantity is going to fall, so unemployment is going to increase. These are the kind of questions you're going to see. This stuff is easy as long as you know the key relationships. I have for you the key relationships. They are right here. When I say relationships, one more time, these are if this changes, how does it affect this? This affects this. All right, here we go. Key relationships. Take a look at them right here. Now, again, I'm not trying to teach you a bunch of concepts. I'm trying to remind you of some concepts 2 days before the exam. So as you're going through this, you should be able to spot the concepts that are here. In fact, there's some definitions you can be able to spot just by looking at it. Oh, I kind of see these concepts, some of them. For example, you should be able to spot fiscal policy. When I say the word fiscal policy, you should know which numbers are fiscal policy or monetary policy. You should be like, oh, I know which one of these relationships are under the umbrella of monetary policy. Okay? I'm going to show you in a second as you look at these. Someone said, can I post?
Also, I'm not writing all of these down. I'm writing the ones that I personally need, Mr. Lee.
So you're fine. Okay. For each one of these, make sure you know both directions. So if interest rates go up, right, then investment is going to go down, and know the opposite, obviously, as well. But there's a ton of this on the test. This causes this, and then there's chain links, right? So if interest rates go up, then investment goes down, and if investment goes down, capital stock goes up. More capital stock means more economic growth. Like they make these chain links in these relationships. Let me show you a couple concepts, though. Those right there are fiscal policy. Remember, fiscal policy is a huge concept in Unit 3. It's basically government spending and taxes. So know those relationships. The other one you need to know is definitely crowding out. I just talked about it. Deficit spending will lead to a higher interest rate. Interest rates affect investment. Lowering investment, that's crowding out. Which one of these right now, let me know in the comments, which one represent monetary policy? So is it 8 to 14? Is Is it 13 to 15? Like, which ones represent the idea of monetary policy? I'll give you a hint. It's multiple of them. Right now, I'm waiting for the first person. Let me know in the comments. Which one is it? Somebody asked, what's capital stock? I'll answer that while you're saying that. Capital stock is machines, tools, factories. So physical capital, right? Physical capital. That's it. The answer is right here. 8 to 12 is all the idea of monetary policy. So affecting the money supply, how does it affect interest rates? And then how you change the money supply is the reserve requirement, discount rate, the central bank buying and selling bonds. That's open market operations. Again, I know I'm going quick here. With 2 days left, hopefully I'm reminding you things. If you come in across like, I don't know what he's talking about, you probably have some videos to watch and some practice to do. 12 is the idea of ample and limited reserves. That concept's important too. Okay? Some people who are leaving a bunch of comments, again, I can't read them and talk. So if somebody wants to jump in there and be my little helper elf, answer some questions, help people out, be super helpful. All I'm trying to show you is an idea.
It hurts.
The idea is
I'm not even like poking at it because I think it's cool.
Make sure
Now
you know
my
this
bicep
causes that.
right here,
Or the other way, they ask
it
questions like
hurts so
this
bad.
happened. So interest rates fell. What
I'm
must
not
have happened to the money
vibing.
supply? So a lot of the
I'm
gains
so
that cause,
tired.
what must be the effect? Okay, that said,
Oh.
let's talk about what else you're going to see, which is the graphs. There's 7 key graphs you need to know. 7 key graphs, no doubt about it. Right now in the comments, let me know which one is the most important one. Which one is the most important graph on this? You're going to see it on the response. I promise you 100%. Creating custom clothing.
This is not fair, Mr. Lee. They've given us ads. Heimler's didn't have ads. What happened?
Someone says, Jake, I can't hear you. I think you can. I hope you can. Aggregate demand supply is correct. Aggregate demand supply, then the Phillips curve, foreign exchange, loanable funds, money market, reserve market.
Yeah, I'm gonna write these all down because if Mr. Lee saw that I didn't.
But you're gonna see these on multiple choice questions. You're gonna see them on the free response. You'll probably see at least 5
to calm my
on the free
bulk out.
responses. Okay. All right. Some people, I think they're playing a joke on me, like, I can't hear you. I'm like, wait, how can the other people? Okay. Okay. Someone said, I don't.
Bro, we can hear you.
Sorry, that's not good. Okay.
We can hear you.
The test has 3 free responses.
This is not live, by the way. This is the day after. I'm talking to myself. That's how crazy I've gone.
You're gonna graph at least 4, probably 5 of these. They've never really done all 6, but that's okay. All right. So someone hit the jackpot. Yeah. 10 calculations. Okay. So you're gonna be expected to calculate on this exam. Question is, what are you gonna have to calculate? Well, here's the list of things you're gonna have to calculate. Again, I'm not going over each one of them, so don't freak out in the comments. Spending multiplier, they're going to give you a gap, a negative or positive gap, and they'll say, okay, how much spending to close the gap? And remember, on those ones, they ask you show your work. So make sure to show your work and tell them the change. So is it a decrease in spending or an increase in spending? Those are the little details that matter. The money multiplier, the real interest rate, right? The real interest rate is the nominal minus expected inflation. Unemployment rate, they give you the numbers, you have to calculate that. GDP deflator, GDP given 2 different years. So they say, okay, here's year 1, year 2, here's the prices, here's the products, calculate GDP. Labor force participation rate, consumer price index, GDP per capita, it's easy, GDP divided by population. And then something about opportunity cost for comparative advantage or the production cost of this curve. I promise you're gonna see at least probably at least half of these between the multiple choice and the free response. You're gonna see at least 2 on the free responses. They love to answer, calculation questions. You're gonna see pretty much 8 out of 10 on multiple choice. Make sure you are ready for them. Okay. All right. Some are more important than others, though. So the ones that are really important is spending, money multiplier, real.
Ow.
Put them in the order of importance. Make sure you know those for sure. All right. That said, ladies and gentlemen, I did this for micro. People seem to like it, so I'm doing it for macro. I'm going to give you 3 things you got to do in order of importance. So the things you're going to lock it in, and then you expect to see this, and then be ready for it. Before I show you that, keep in mind that for this is for the free responses. I'm not talking about the multiple choice. Multiple choice is going to cover the entire class, right? It's going to have these things too. You're going to see all these multiple choice, but make sure you are ready for the free responses. Ladies and gentlemen, what are you going to lock in? Here's what you're going to see. Here's what you need to lock in. First, you have to be able to draw and shift and analyze aggregate supply. Same thing with the Phillips curve. So be able to show a negative, positive output gap, all that stuff. Also, be able to draw, shift, and analyze foreign exchange. It's our favorite graph, other than aggregate demand supply. Make sure you're comfortable with that. I'll talk about the shifters later if you want that. Also explain fiscal policy, monetary policy, how it can be used to close gaps. So this is the idea of using taxes or spending for fiscal policy, or the changes in the money supply for limited reserve market, open market operations, discount rate, or for ample reserves, the interest on reserves. Basically, just understand monetary policy you're going to use. The last one is you're going to calculate something. I'll talk more about specific things in a second. What I think is going to be on this year. I'm almost there. My first response is coming. Next, expect. Here we go. Long list here.
Golly.
Reserve market, explain long run self adjustments. You're going to see that somewhere. Remember, there's usually two sets of responses. So if you don't have this on yours, the person next to you is going to have this. So prepare for all these things. Explain how a change in capital stock leads to more growth. Draw and analyze loanable funds market. Calculate comparative advantage in terms of trade. And then categorize transactions, the balance of payments. So they're going to give you transaction. Is this part of the current account or the capital or financial account? And the last one is calculate something. Well, GDP deflator, and the unemployment rate. Those are all things you're going to be expected to calculate. Maybe on a free response, but definitely somewhere in the multiple choice section for sure. And the be readies. Calculate changes in the bank balance sheet. They give you a bank balance sheet. They say someone took money in their pocket. They deposited it in this bank. What's going to happen to excess reserves or required reserves or whatever? Draw and analyze production possibilities curve. Use the tax multiplier or the transfer payments multiplier. This is the idea of fiscal policy. Remember, there's a spending multiplier, which is the easy one. Make sure you're ready for that tax multiplier just in case it pops up. Explain how interest rates affect bond prices. They're going to have a question with the relationship. Just remember, inverse relationship. Interest rates go up, bond prices go down. Remember that. You're fine. There have, in recent years, asked you to explain that concept. I can explain it later if you need me to during the question and answer. Okay? Again, people are asking for shout-outs. Can't shout out right now or else everyone's going to ask. Question is, are you locked in? Write down in the comments, say, I'm locked in or I'm not locked in. I don't know. Give me some sort of feedback to make sure I'm not talking to myself. Will there be a bank balance sheet question? That was a good question. According to the history, no. We haven't seen one in a long time. I don't know why they haven't asked one. I'll be for my responses, predictions, I didn't have it, but they could. So be ready in case they have one. Don't just completely ignore it. Same thing for comparative advantage. Don't just blow it up. Okay, I'm locked in. I'm locked in. Someone says not locked in. That's okay. All right, let's talk about my predictions. What I think is going to be on this year's FRQs. Before I do that, one last thing I want to show you is this. It is my first response FRQ tree. Now, I made this 3 years ago. A lot of teachers share this with their students. That's awesome. But I want to show you it one last time. If you've seen it, I'll go quick. On the first response, it's always the same. Now, this year on the micro test, they did something they've never done before. They had a game theory question on the first response, which is super weird. So maybe this year they might go a bank balance sheet for question 1.
Whoa!
2-1. No. But they're going to do this. They're going to.
Mother?
You're going to see this. And if it's anything like in the past,
I'm doing the videos.
It's going to happen. Every year you can look at every response and say it looks like this somehow. They always start by giving you an output gap or full employment, a negative or positive output gap or full employment. They ask you to draw either aggregate supply or the Phillips curve. From there, they branch out to 4 different things. That's all they do. These first responses are always the same. First one is the long run self-adjustment. So if there's a negative output gap, what's going to happen in the long run if there's no policy? Then they're going to ask you about fiscal policy. By the way, when I say then, they're not going to ask you all 4. They might choose 2 of the 4. So they'll say, okay, long self-adjustment and monetary policy. And the way they do that is they'll say, okay, show what happens in long run adjustment. Instead of that, instead. So they kind of get to the end of the branch and they go, let's go back and go to a different branch. So they're going to ask long run self-adjustment, fiscal policy. They're going to ask some sort of random shift. So if something happens with net exports, or if there's an increase in consumer spending, or something random that's not taxes or monetary policy. The last one I can say is monetary policy. From there, they branch out even further. From long run self-adjustment, there's no branching. It's like they could have you draw it and show the shift in the short X supply curve. Maybe. Usually they have to have you explain it. But fiscal policy, there's multiple things they're going to have you do. Fiscal policy can switch now. Okay, now here's the gap. How much spending to close the gap, or how much taxes or tax cut to close the gap. They could talk about growth. Okay, fiscal policy occurs. What's going to happen to economic growth if there's more government spending on infrastructure? And then a lot of times they'll take that and talk about loanable funds. So they'll jump into the idea of, okay, what if there's deficit spending? What happens to loanable funds?
Sí,
Loanable funds
mi padre,
last years, I
vamos a
think,
las
back.
5,
So
vamos a
they
estar
can
ahí
use
a
loanable
un
funds,
bien tiempo,
grab.
¿correcto?
Random shift is random. Like I said, it could be net
Okay.
exports. It could be a change in trade or a change of tariffs or something's happening in the world. You have to draw the shift. Monetary policy branches out to either the money market graph, right? And they're showing the effects of monetary policy, or the reserve market graph, where they dive into the idea of limited ample reserves, interest on reserves, and that new graph your teacher's been showing you. From there, they almost always end up in the same spot, because there's one huge concept missing, and it's big. It's the whole idea of foreign exchange. So they go, okay, now how does this affect the international value of the currency? And they ask this so often that I can't leave it off. This is the free response tree. This shows you the concepts you're going to see. I have a prediction, and I'm going to show it to you with the tree. My prediction for the first free response. Remember, there's 2 sets. So I think the first one's going to look like, you ready? Bam! This is what I think it is. Let me know in the comments what you think. You're ready for this. I think they're going to give you a negative output gap. I think they're going to ask you to draw average demand supply. They're going to say, okay, explain what happens when there's a long-run self-adjustment. And you're going to say, well, wages and resource prices will fall in the long run. There's no policy. Aggregate supply will shift to the right, and then we'll be back at full employment. They might ask you a question, well, what's going to happen to structural employment or cyclical unemployment or something like that? And then they're going to go, okay, assume instead, and they ask you the fiscal policy side. Okay, let's say there's government spending, and let's give you a gap. I think they're actually going to have you do the calculation with the spending multiplier this year. Then I think they're going to get that over loanable funds. Say, okay, if there's more government spending, and that's increasing deficit spending, show what that looks like using loanable funds. All right, you're going to show what that looks like. And then they're going to say, okay, according to the interest rate change that you saw in loanable funds, how is that going to affect foreign exchange? Remember.
So I can get up to $1,500 for college or career training with CalKids. If you went to a California public high school, you might have a scholarship.
Remember, when interest rates change, that affects the supply and demand for foreign exchange, for your currency. Just remember, when interest rates go up, other countries want to buy more of your currency. So interest rates, real interest rates increase in your country. Other countries want to buy, other people, not the country, other people from other countries want to buy your currency because they want that higher rate of return. So that's that concept you're going to see. They could ask you how that affects the capital and financial accounts. This is, I think, the first response. Let me show it to you in a little more detail. That's what it looks like. I think they're going to ask you aggregate demand supply, negative output gap. That's what I kind of just said right here. So one thing also I mentioned, they haven't done in a while on the response.
I don't think we're going to write down anything on the
Things like right there, it says explain how the policy will affect employment. Don't fall for that crap. When they go employment, not unemployment, right? So employment is going to increase when we have fiscal policy. Unemployment's going to fall. People who are out of a job, that number is going to fall, but employment's going to increase. So those little details they put in just to see if you're actually paying attention. Don't freak out. You're going to be fine. That's fair response number 1. Again, let me know in the comments if you're ready for that. Hopefully you are. Let's go take a look at number 2. Number 2, I think, is the reserve market. I think they're going to ask you to draw the reserve market graph showing ample reserves, which is this graph here. Show expansionary monetary policy. So they're going to say we're in a negative output gap. You know, what can we do? The answer is lower the interest on reserves. Or you can say lower administered rates. That would decrease that policy rate. Explain how it change and affect bond prices. So they're going to connect that back to bond prices. And then explain how that affects the natural rate of unemployment. Now, slow down. Again, this is something we saw years ago, and I haven't seen it in a while. This is kind of like what I said about employment earlier. When they ask you questions where nothing changes, so they'll say, you know, what will happen to the natural rate of unemployment? Will it increase, decrease, or stay the same? They haven't asked a lot of like those tricky questions. With expansionary monetary policy, what happens to natural rate of unemployment? Nothing, right? Natural rate of unemployment is set by other things other than short-term changes in the economy. So the amount of frictional and structural unemployment is going to stay exactly the same. So be careful for those questions. It's not necessarily, something doesn't have to go up or down. Sometimes it's going to stay exactly the same. So that's what I think it's going to be. This is the 3rd year of the reserve market graph being introduced to the free response section of the exam. So, you know, I think it's going to be on there. Your teacher probably said it's going to be on there. Make sure you practice. I have a video about the reserve market as well, and I can talk about it more during our Q&A. You ready for number 3? Are you ready for number 3? I am. Here we go. Number 3, I think is, ready for it? Is it bank balance sheets? I don't know. Is it foreign exchange? I don't know. I'm going to get in trouble for this, but honestly, I think, and I've been wrong in the past, I think it's comparative advantage. That's right. I know. I hope you're not booing right now. I think they're going to give you the production possibilities curve showing 2 different countries, country A, country B. They're going to say calculate the opportunity cost for one train or whatever. Then you have to identify the comparative advantage for each country or for one country. Which country has a comparative advantage in toys? And then identify a mutually beneficial terms of trade. We haven't seen a free response with terms of trade and comparative advantage for a while. Now, and then, by the way, finishing off with, saying, okay, if now each country has more capital stock, what happens to growth? You wouldn't have to draw it, but you just explain the idea that it leads to more growth in the economy. It kind of goes back to a Unit 5 concept. Now, I want to point this out real quick. Don't spend all your time reviewing comparative advantage. This is my guess. I've been wrong in the past. This is for fun. We're doing these predictions for fun to see what you know, to see if I'm right. Some years I'm dead on, some years I'm off. I think it's comparative advantage, but again, don't be mad at me when I'm going to make a video going over the answers to the response 3 days after the test. Don't be mad at me if I was wrong. This is just what I think it's going to be. So practice. When it comes to comparative advantage, though, you're going to see at least two multiple choice questions. Usually a medium and a hard. So a medium is like find comparative advantage, and the hard is like terms of trade. Maybe even 3. You might see it on a free response. So even if it's not a free response, you should definitely practice comparative advantage and make sure you're ready for that. Okay, those are my free responses. Let me know right now in the chat if you are ready for these 3. The other one, it could be bank balance sheets. Could be another one. My third one, I bounced. I wasn't sure about that. That goes back to monetary policy. The only reason why I don't think it's bank balance sheets is because that pulls from Unit 4, and Unit 4 is ample and limited reserves and reserve market. The AP test doesn't do that, which I should mention right now, so I will. The first free response is going to pull from at least 3 units. So they're going to ask you aggregate demand, and they're going to also ask you about maybe GDP deflator. They're going to ask you about monetary policy and fiscal policy. So basically, they're asking multiple units. The free response 2 and 3 usually come from 1 or 2 units. So 1, it's comparative advantage is all unit 1. They might be like comparative advantage, a little side quest of a concept of how's it going to affect foreign exchange, or if this occurs, what happens, or this little calculation you have to do. So keep that in mind. You're going to see all this stuff. Okay, I hope you guys feel about it. Someone just yelled out, "We got this." Look at that. We got this. That's not what I wanted. You guys keep moving it before I had a chance to. We got this. There we go. Yeah, perfect. Okay, all that said, we don't leave yet. We're going to talk about some graphs and some other stuff. For the people who want to take off because they're done with predictions or they're watching this later, because some people are going to watch this later, before you take off, I want to thank you so much for watching my videos. Thanks for being there. Thank you for letting me help you. I hope you go off to college, go off to do amazing things in life, and use economics for the rest of your life. It's been my pleasure being your online teacher. Now, that said, I'm moving on with Q&A. I'm going to start looking at the comments, give a couple shout-outs in a second, but then I'm going to focus on the graphs. We're going to go unit by unit. So if you're asking, show balance of payments, I'm not going to do it until we get to Unit 6. Okay? So right now, someone said, yay, Clifford. So if you want to say thank you, Mr. Clifford, now's the time. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. By the way, as you guys are doing this, I should also mention there's this TikTok video going out with me and a couple other YouTube educators. Do you know, I'm friends with Jacob Reed. We're buddies, right? We graded the AP test together. Great friend. So there's no battle here. There's no smoke, as you guys would say. I'm friends with Jacob Reed. We're buddies, right? We graded the AP test together. Great friend. So there's no battle here. There's no smoke, as you guys would say. These are awesome educators. There's no competition out there. I just want you to know that anybody who's here to help you should be here to help you. I really commented and I was like, oh geez, there was this big battle. I like this person better. I like this person better. Why are you picking on that person? That's no fun. We're here to help you. That's what's important. You the goat. I will take it. The goat. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Okay, now it's time to give your shout out. Shout out to Mr. Barr. You guys are doing more. I love you too. I'm not going to do this for very long, I promise. Cliff? Econ Goat, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Clifford. You're very welcome. Thank you. Thank you. Oh my gosh, your comments are so many. Jeez. Okay. I'm not sure what. I saw this one before. Mr. Seltz. Okay, I'm going to try as many as I can as they pop up here. Yeah. So as I'm talking about this, right after we're done here, I'm going to go shoot the video for micro FRQs. So, Mr. Cohen, Mr. Smith, I'm jumping on that now so I can do that. Coke Blanc, so let's look where the economy is. Okay, they can ask you about any other fear response, but conceptually you should understand how to draw a negative output gap, a positive output gap, and full employment using all three of these graphs. Excuse me, they are the production possibilities curve, average demand supply, and the Phillips curve. All the other graphs don't show where the economy is. They show either the effects of the economy, so usually a policy effect, so if something happens, how does that affect the money supply graph? But it doesn't show, okay, that's where the economy is. Only these three graphs do that. These other graphs show different concepts. The first one, bottom left, shows the money market graph. This is change in the money supply. This is the whole idea of monetary policy. Or if there's a change in demand, sometimes there's a change in demand. They haven't asked that in a while. A demand shift in money supply, might see that. So shifting the demand for money if, I don't know, it's easier to get your money out from the bank, then the demand for money would fall. People don't need as much money as they did before, right? So demand can shift. Usually it's the supply shift. The loanable funds market just shows the supply and demand for loans. Very easy. Remember, the demand is for borrowers. The supply is for savers. And then the last one's foreign exchange. Foreign exchange, so important to know. You've got to know it. Just remember for that, the demand is by foreigners and the supply for foreign exchange is by domestic people. I mean, it's not perfectly like that, but it's easy enough to remember to get it. Those are the key graphs. Don't forget there's one more, though, and it's right there. You've got to know the reserve market. Let me know in the comments right now. 5 is you totally get it. 1, you have no clue how to use this graph. Let me know because I think it's going to be something I need to talk about if there's enough people who don't know what's going on here.
When you picture the future of work, what do you see? We see Samuel.
So when it comes to AP tests, what do you need to be able to do? First, be able to draw. That'll get you at least 1 point. Okay? Some people say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got a video on YouTube. When you're done here, go watch that video. If you put anything less than a 3, someone said a 10. Okay, so the reserve market graph just shows a concept. And the concept, it's zooming in on basically what's the policy rate. In the United States, what's called the federal funds rate. They're basically zooming in and saying, okay, if there's ample reserves, then we're going to be all the way out here where the demand for reserves is flat. If there are limited reserves, then demand is downward sloping. And basically where you draw that vertical line all depends if we have ample or limited reserves. Again, I'm not going to explain all. It's not a good time for me to explain it. All you need to know is this. The big concept you need to walk away with is when there are limited reserves, the 3 ways to change the money supply totally work. Reserve requirement, discount rate, open market operations. You learn that. They're in every textbook. Perfect. But when there's ample reserves and there's all this money out there in the system, those don't really work that well. When the bank gets, when the central bank buys bonds and now the bank has more money, they already got all these reserves. Well, it's not going to really affect the money supply. It's not going to affect interest rates, right, very much when there's ample reserves. So that's why the central bank uses interest on reserves when there's ample reserves. If you understand that concept, you're going to be able to answer like 80% of the questions, even if you don't fully understand the graph. Okay? Now, that said, in the comments below, there's a PDF that has all the topics in the course. So looks just like this. You can download it right now. You don't need to print it out or anything, but it's got links to all the videos as well. So if you need some more help, you can go take a look at that. What I want to do, and I did this in the micro session, and we're already at 31 minutes. So I'm not going to be doing this for very long, but let's spend at least 20, probably 30, to be honest, going through each unit. So I'm going to answer your individual questions and help you out. Remember, this is not the time or place to review everything. I'll review the most important ones based on what you guys tell me. If someone says something, then back them up. Say, yeah, I want to see that too. I want to see that too. If right now you're just saying comments from a faraway unit, here in Unit 5, I'm just not going to do it. So let's go jump into Unit 1 concepts. These are the easiest questions on there. As you're doing it, keep in mind, you're not going to see very many supply and demand questions. The reason why you learned supply and demand was to understand aggregate demand and supply later on in Unit 3. So you're not going to see a bunch of those. So don't worry too much about having a bunch of market supply and demand questions. You might see one on the test, but probably not. Everyone's going to go terms of trade, terms of trade, terms of trade, terms of trade. Well, there is a video where I go over the terms of trade. I'm just going to give a link out to that video instead, because I just don't think it's valuable. I'm pulling my own videos. I'll put that in the comments for you guys. Put this on the list of things you should watch right when we're done here. Conceptually, I was going to do conceptually. Of this, the most important thing is by far, and the hardest one, is comparative advantage. Production possibility curve is also super important. But understanding comparative advantage, watch that video. That will significantly help. But the idea of comparative advantage is easy. Countries should specialize in the thing that they're really good at producing. Okay, that's easy. There's 4 things you're going to see on every question, though. Okay, 4 things you look out for. Number 1 is calculate opportunity cost. So they'll set it up. Always set it up the same, by the way. You've got the countries on the left, and you put the products wherever they're producing on the top, and there's the numbers inside. First question is they're having calculate opportunity cost. For country A, 1 train costs how many toys? First question. Second question they're going to ask you is absolute advantage. They're going to say, okay, which country has an absolute advantage in the production of toys? The answer is whichever one produces more. Easy. Third question is find the comparative advantage. You can use the quick and dirty. You can use the other tricks I gave you in the other videos. But basically, you compare the opportunity cost for the 2 countries. Whoever has a lower opportunity cost has a comparative advantage. The last one, terms of trade. Terms of trade is a mutually beneficial terms of trade. 1 train for how many toys would both countries be happy with? That video, I gave you some tricks that'll help you. There's kind of a way to set it up, and the answer is always between these 2 numbers. They actually have you explain sometimes too, so just be ready for that. I am not going to spend too much time jumping into it. I'd rather spend more time on things that I guarantee on the test than ones that might be on the test. Besides, you've got that video to help you out. That said, I'm sorry I'm cutting you off if you feel like someone said margin utility. I probably should take it off here. That's more of a micro concept if it's on here. Is it? It's not really on here. That's okay. Yeah, marginal. I'm seeing your other things. Let's go back up. Let's move forward. Unit 2 looks like this. Okay, what's important here? You're going to see one easy question for our definition of what counts and doesn't count in GDP. Super easy. You got that. Make sure you know the relationships, right? Government spending, how it affects aggregate demand, or net exports, how it affects aggregate demand. Someone said talk about Lakers. We're not there. You're not doing shout-outs. Don't do that either. What do you want to know here? CPI. Okay. Again, I have a video that does all the key calculations. Please go take a look at that. Search it up right now. I know I keep sending you out the videos. Here's why. This is inefficient. I know it sounds weird because I like leading review sessions and live review sessions, but they're very, very, very inefficient because the video, I spent time putting it all together super fast, super tight. So I can explain something in 15 minutes that I did in 2 minutes in a video. The ones you will see. Let me back up. Units 3, 4, and 5. You need to use Unit 2 to do well. Unit 2 kind of sets the base, but the concept, the majority of this test is Units 3, 4, and 5. So what do you need to know here? What GDP is? You need to understand how to calculate GDP deflator. It's the GDP deflator is the nominal GDP divided by the real times 100. Some unemployment stuff is super important. You have to know. Remember, the natural rate of unemployment is not 0%. It's frictional and structural. There was a question on that last year. Someone's asking about the circular flow. That's the 3rd time I've seen it. So circular flow model. They're not going to have you draw it, but it just shows the relationship what's happening in the economy. Right? The idea is that there's households or individuals, me and you. There's also businesses, and individuals sell their resources to businesses. Businesses produce with those resources products and sell them to the businesses. Inside there's a bunch of definitions, so you need to understand the idea of consumer spending and the factors of production, which are the resources that people have, land, labor, capital, all that kind of stuff. Okay? Some people ask about Unit 6. You guys are funny. Again, if you are to ask about, it was funny the first time. It's not as funny the 8th time. If you ask about Unit 6 concepts, I'm not there. I'm not going to do that. We're in Unit 2 right now. the GDP deflator and the CPI are really the same equation. Like conceptually, they're different, but mathematically they're the same, right? So it's the value currently divided by the value in the base year times 100. Really, that's all the CPI is. So the CPI is what's the value of the current market basket divided by the value adjusted for inflation, which is that's the concept. Nominal, real, same idea. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna move on to more important units. Unit 3. Oh, what can I say in Unit 3? I can tell you this. Here, let me switch over to graph mode and remind you of a concept that you totally need to know, and it's right here. Here. Okay, when it comes to fiscal and monetary policy, there's something I got to show you. Your teacher probably showed you this too. Just remember this concept. Okay, what is the concept? The concept is this. Okay, a long-run self-adjustment will always, is that reversed or is it me? That's reversed. What the farts? That's not good. It wasn't like that earlier. That's funny. Oh, well, I'm not going to be using that. Okay, the long-run self-adjustment. Oh my gosh, things are going crazy. Okay, sorry. Long-run self-adjustment. What do you need to know? You need to know for the long-run self-adjustment that it always shifts short-run aggregate supply. Always. It does not shift aggregate demand. So the idea is when there's no policy, we have a negative output gap. Eventually, wages and resource prices will fall. That means we'll produce more stuff. The short output is not going to shift. Employment, not unemployment, but employment, they might do that. You will not necessarily know Keynes. Someone just asked about Keynesian economics. The concept definitely is important, right? Students need to know the concept of using government spending to close a gap, but the person himself you don't need. The supply shifters. So easy to remember supply shifters, anything that affects production. So number of resources, any change in technology or productivity is a huge one. The one that's usually tricky for students is the idea of expected inflation. If businesses expect higher inflation, then costs automatically start going up because you think inflation is going to happen, and the whole world, not just businesses, the whole world or the whole country thinks there's going to be more inflation. And I'm your employee, I'm going to ask for a raise because I think inflation's coming. That's going to decrease aggregate supply. All those concepts are big ideas. Let's go talk about this one. I mentioned this in my video where I talked about the sneaky things. Funny enough, there's not that many views. I think there's only like 8,000 views. So that's not getting as many people recognizing the importance of those small details. I said it in that video. I'll say it again real quick here. There's a concept called automatic stabilizers. This is fiscal policy. The government is doing something involved in the economy. It's not the same as a long-run self-adjustment. Okay? So this idea is there are laws already on the books that cause the economy to self-regulate itself in a way. For example, a great one is the idea of our tax bracket system. When the economy goes in the dump and people are unemployed, their tax bracket falls. They make less income, so they go down to a lower tax bracket. They're paying less in taxes. That would beat up the economy. No new law required. So an automatic stabilizer it's called non-discretionary fiscal policy. There's no new law. That's totally different than the long-run self-adjustment. Long-run self-adjustment is there's also no policy, right? But am I confused this way? I just said that. There's no policy, long-run self-adjustment. Economy automatically self-corrects itself. With non-discretionary fiscal policy or the automatic stabilizers, there's no new law, but there's a law in the books. There's something that government is doing with taxes or spending to close the gap. Okay? The other concepts I want to mention here, obviously with fiscal policy, make sure you know the spending multiplier, tax multiplier, and transfer payments multiplier. They like to throw that in as a little curveball to help students as well. Let's see. All right. I'm reading your comments, by the way, for what I'm doing. People are asking questions in the next unit. I'll get there. I promise you. Really, though, this is it. If you're looking at this unit and you're like, okay, I got this stuff, you just got yourself probably a 2 on the AP test alone right here. If you feel really comfortable, there's such a large portion from this. And there's so many concepts here you also see in Unit 5 as well. So I think you'd be fine. All right. Let's move on to the next unit, which is financial sector and the idea of monetary policy. Concepts here that you need to watch out for. Like I said, bank balance sheets, remember that's with the assets and liabilities, and they ask you, really just do a practice question or two. Like you do a couple practice questions, like, okay, I remember how to do this. It's really just, it's moving along with the idea of the money multiplier. So the money multiplier, remember in this unit is 1 over the reserve requirement. The spending multiplier from the last unit is 1 over the marginal propensity to save. A way to remember that is just 1 over how much you save. It's easy, like to remember, but you have to be able to use it. They won't ask you what's the money multiplier. They'll say, okay, someone deposited $200 in the bank. What's the maximum change in money supply from that deposit? One thing to remember is when people deposit money from their pocket into the bank, that money's already part of the money supply. So that new, that total amount doesn't get multiplied. For example, if I put $100 in the bank from cash, that bank now doesn't get the whole 100 multiplied. Only that initial amount that they can loan out is going to get multiplied. So if the reserve requirement is 10%, I give the bank $100, they deposit it, that increases demand deposits by 100. When that bank loans out, I can spend more time on balance sheets, particularly there's a really good one in the ultimate review packet. By the way, so I'll tell you on my second third response, I had a prediction. I said there's going to be ample limited reserves. I was thinking this year, actually, so I'm going to do this as my backup, that they're going to ask you a question if you can understand the difference between the money market and the reserve market. So having one question, say, draw the money market graph, show the results of open market operations on that graph. And then draw the reserve market graph and now show the change in interest on reserves. And I think the reason why I was going to suggest that is because I think we've practiced enough where students can do those skills. I still put what I put, but my backup was I think we're going to see money market graph. If not in the first response, you're going to see it in multiple choice for sure. Again, you guys are doing shout outs. We're not quite there yet. Functions of money. Super easy. I mean, talk about something easy. Functions of money. There's 3 functions of money: medium of exchange, unit of account, and a store of value. The one they asked about is medium of exchange. So, money is used to buy goods and services. Those actual terms are on the test, though, which makes it weird because no one uses those terms. But again, it's, people use money for 3 different reasons. That's the functions of money. Loanable funds. Yeah, let's go talk about loanable funds. I wish I could graph it, but my graph is all messed up. But the idea of loanable funds. Okay, let's go talk about loanable funds. Let's see if I can actually change my camera settings so it's not reversed. Here we go. Let's go try it. Here we go. Ready? Want to try?
This is your brain when you're struggling to focus. And this is your brain when you're in the zone. But getting in the zone and staying there, that feels more like luck than something.
That's totally... that's reversed, right? I want to put my paper upside down. Help you out. Okay, so... all right, what do you need to know about loanable funds? First of all, it's not that hard. It's just supply and demand. It's supply and demand for loans. Just remember, the people who are demanding loans are borrowers. I want to borrow money. I'm demanding loans. Anything that affects borrowers, whether if there's more profit to be made, the economy is growing and they're expecting more profit, they demand more. If there's capital gains taxes would affect it. Anything that would affect business taxes, like a decrease in business taxes, right? But the thing about the AP test is they're going to tell you. They never have you guess. They're going to be very specific. They'll say, okay, this event occurs, and you just got to remember, if it affects borrowers, it's going to be a demand. If it affects savers or lenders, it's going to affect supply. So, and it's showing the real interest rate. Loanable funds really isn't that tricky. Again, it's about doing a couple multiple choice questions. I think it'll help you out. You do need to know it, and I think it's tricky to show it either way. The idea of, crowding out using loanable funds. The AP test will tell you what to do, though. A lot of times they'll say, okay, show on the supply of loanable funds what happens when the government deficit spends. In that case, you have to draw supply because they ask you to draw it. But the concept, again, is when the government borrows, that's going to raise interest rates because the government's taking the money, and so there's less money for private businesses to invest. And so interest rates go up. When interest rates go up, that's going to lead to less spending and less growth. Government crowded out private investment. Crowding out's a huge, huge, huge concept. I'm glad you guys are asking about it. Perfect. There you go. Look at you guys. Like 18 people asked about crowding out. I love it. Okay? Okay. All right. Oh, you guys saying it's not reversed for you? Is that guy pulling my chain? I don't even know. Pulling my chain, I sound so old when I say that. Is that not reversed for you? So you're saying when you look at that, that looks normal for you. I think he's full of crap. So if I were to draw a loanable funds market, here is the real interest rate. I don't know if I can trust you anyways. Demand and supply. There's the real interest rate and there's the quantity. That is reversed for me. Let's see. Which one of you should I trust? It looks normal. Not reversed, not reversed, not reversed. It's good. I can't tell who's telling the truth. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Okay. It looks good. It works. Well, if you saw my side, you would see that this thing is totally reversed. I promise. I'm going to keep talking about that. It's actually going to mess me up too. But okay, here we go. So again, like I just said, with the questions would look like this. They would say there's deficit spending, meaning, or they'll do some sort of word. They might not use that term. They might say the government increase spending and keep taxes the same, right? Or cut taxes. You know what I'm saying? But or raise taxes and not. They could explain it in some way. And then all you need to know is either supply is going to decrease or demand is going to go up. Either way, and the most important thing is the real interest rate is going to go up, right? And that's the idea of crowding out. Crowding out means we're going to have less investment because real interest rates went up. Cool? That's the big concept you need to know. Great. All right. It's weird to see on the screen weird, and then you guys are saying it's not weird, but I trust you, and I love you. Okay. All right. Let's go over to the next unit, okay? Let's jump over. Nope, my bad. Let's take a look here at Unit 6. Balance payments, balance payments, balance payments. Okay, let's talk about balance payments. If there's one unit that your teacher did not cover very well, is it's this idea of Unit 6. It just happens. People are running out of time. Your teacher's just like, I don't have the time to cover this stuff, and they do it in like 3 days. I've done it many times myself as a teacher, so that's okay. Here's what you need to know. Let's just boil it down and get you the darn, the results you need. There are two accounts of balance payment. Balance of payments is basically accounting. So remember when you did GDP and what counts and not counts towards GDP? Balance of payments is the same sort of thing. There are two different accounts. There's the current account and the capital and financial account. The current account, all you need to know in that one is the idea, the main component is net exports. If it's going to affect net exports, we're buying goods and services from other countries, that's going to affect that. So the concept you need to understand, if you're export more to other countries, right, that's going to be a move towards a surplus for your current account. And the concept is easy if you just think, okay, we're just looking at goods. There's other components of finance you're at. It's not buying a product and an owner's active account moves towards the surplus. The capital financial account needs to move towards the deficit. And the reason why is they all are going to equal to zero. And so this concept is, one goes one direction, one has to go the other direction. Really, they've had a few responses where you had to categorize like 3 different things, identify as part of the current capital account, and then explain. Maybe you might see one of those. That's it for the main concept. If you saw like 10 multiple choice questions, you'd be fine with that. In this unit, in terms of importance, I'd say that's like, 25% of the importance in this unit. The other 75% is foreign exchange. You need to know foreign exchange. You need to know the 4 shifters of foreign exchange. 4 shifters are, number 1 is a change in taste. If you prefer things from other countries, that's going to change the demand for the other country's currency and the supply of your own currency. So taste and preferences, number one. Next one is price level, or better ways to do income. Income's another one. If you're richer, you buy more things from other countries. Next one is price level or inflation. And the last one is interest rates. So I'll say those again one more time. Ready? Number one, taste and preference. These are things that affect foreign exchange. Taste and preferences. Number two is, which one did I say? Income, GDP, right? If your risk rates graph, and then there's their graph. If I want more euros and I want more European products, they've got really cool shoes, I want to buy their shoes. That means the demand. Really easy concepts conceptually. Students have a tendency to like overthink it. The reason why is they go, well, what's going to happen now? And then after that, well, that means if it depreciates, they're going to buy more of our stuff. They buy more of our stuff. That's going to increase the demand for our currency. And then they get these like loops. Were you with me right there? I'll say it again. If I buy more things from Europe, right, that means their currency is going to appreciate. But if their currency appreciates, then other people are going to buy less of things from their country, and that's going to cause their currency to depreciate. But if it depreciates, then that's going to come. The concepts are what you need to know. So if there's a tariff on your country, that's going to decrease the demand for, or there's a tariff that's going to decrease the demand for your goods and services if other countries have to pay a tariff. You won't have to draw it like you do in micro, okay? Somebody asked this. Ooh, I'm glad you've been paying attention. You watched my other video. Central bank foreign exchange intervention. This is the idea where the central bank can manipulate the country's exchange rate. And all you really need to know on this one is central bank, if they want, just think about it this way. It's like just supply and demand over again, except now it's the government or the central bank getting involved in that process. It really, like I said, when I say it's not hard, it's more like just kind of logical more than anything. Okay? Okay. So, no, not that one. Sorry, my bad. Someone asked me about double shifts. Double shifts in foreign exchange graphs.
F double prime.
Okay. Are you guys honest that this is not flipped? I hope you guys, if somebody's gonna come later on and watch this section and be so mad at me if this thing is flipped. Double shifts. Let's go talk about double shifts. Here's the quantity. Oh my gosh. Here is the foreign exchange. The exchange rate. Now, what do I usually want you to label this? Oh, it could be E for exchange rate. You can have ER for exchange rate. If they tell you the other country, for example, if you know the other country is the Mexican peso over their dollars, then maybe you can label it that, right? That's fine. But I'll just do exchange rate. We don't know what the other country is. Demand and supply. Okay, this gets the exchange. What we're doing right now, by the way, if you want to hear on me.
Bucks hate raid.
I'm not going to draw both of these shifts. I'm not going to ask you on the AP test to draw both shifts, but you should know what's going on here. Okay, what's going on here is this. If interest rates in this country go up, other countries are going to buy this country's assets. The demand for the currency is going to increase. That makes sense? Perfect. Foreigners are going to want to buy more of this country's stuff. Cool. At the same time, people in this country are going to want to supply less of their currency, right? They're going to be like, I don't want to supply our currency. I want to keep my currency in my own country so I can get this higher rate of return. So the supply would shift to the left. So the result, we started here, we would end here. The most important thing you know is the exchange rate, also the exchange rate too. This currency will appreciate.
Yes.
Right, that's the key. That's what you need to know. Gosh, this is ugly. This will appreciate, no doubt about it. What are they going to ask you on a test? They could ask you either one. They've never asked both. They could say, okay, what's going to happen to demand or what can happen to supply? Understand it's a double shifter. Why? Because it affects both people. It affects both foreigners and it affects people who are living in your country, living domestically. That's the concept that you need to know when it comes to double shifts for foreign exchange. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, do that over again.
Thank you, Mr. Clifford. That was an amazing video. Now to your next one.